Welcome to Balance Your Life, a podcast designed to motivate you to begin and maintain your health and wellness journey. My name is Meghan. I'm the creator of the Balance by Meghan brand, host of this podcast, yoga enthusiast and teacher, motivational and lifestyle speaker, and blogger. I love inspiring and empowering others to live a more positive, successful, healthier, and happier lifestyle. If this sounds like you, you're in the right place. Let's do this. Welcome to the show, Jenny. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and 2 times is the charm. So for those of you who don't know, we recorded this podcast and one thing led to another and we're re-recording it. So we got
It's just because we like spending so much time together. We just wanted to talk.
We keep adding on new things too.
Yeah.
So Jenny and I met in teacher training a year ago. It is our year friend anniversary. Actually, like 14 months. So that's very exciting.
Yeah.
Right away, you and I clicked, and I think it's because you have you're a very cool person, but you have a really inspiring story, and I wanted to dive right into it and start right at the top. What is your story with your health and wellness journey?
Okay, so I have always considered myself to be a fairly health conscious person. More in recent years, it seems to grow every year as I learn more and, incorporate different things and try new things into my daily life and see what works and what doesn't. And I try to eat healthy and self-care and all that fun stuff. But for me, I guess it all started about over 10 years ago. I was having back pain and I went to a bunch of different doctors and different chiropractors and different massage therapists and trying new things, and nobody knew what was wrong with me and nothing worked. I finally received a diagnosis almost by accident. Well, I guess there are no accidents, but it was kind of a fluke how I finally received a diagnosis. Long story short, I have an autoimmune disorder called ankylosing spondylitis, which is, I like to describe it, and I don't know if this is factually accurate necessarily, almost like a severe form of arthritis. And essentially my spine is slowly fusing together, which sounds super scary. And it is kind of scary. The treatments for it are equally scary, ranging from taking anti-inflammatories every day to a treatment called like immunosuppressants, which basically are needles that you give yourself, or a nurse will come and administer once a month, and it suppresses your immune system.
Okay.
And which, because in an autoimmune disease, your body is attacking itself, and stress can trigger this, and diet, and there's just all sorts of things that can lead to inflammation. But stress and lifestyle is definitely the big kicker, which, I've always dealt with anxiety and stress. Everybody deals with stress, but it's all in how you manage it. And so that has just manifested in my body in this way. And I don't like the idea of taking medication, especially something that's going to suppress my immune system. And the rheumatologist that I used to go see, I don't see anymore, put it to me. I remember talking to them and his team, and they were saying like, oh, you'll just have to avoid crowds and airplanes. And what? Like, that's not a way to live.
Am I supposed to live in this bubble of protection?
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. And that's, yes, I know we all go through stress, but I'm guessing you get a diagnosis like that and your stress level peaks a bit. Like now you're being told of this.
It's a cycle, right? It's like, stress can make it worse. So now I'm stressed about being stressed. Like, how do then I discovered yoga, which, in terms of my spine, motion is lotion.
Yep.
So
I love that. That's
as
good.
I'm being mobile and active, it's helping, slow down the progression of my spinal fusion. And it's sort of a twofold win-win because it's also helping me keep my anxiety and my stress levels down and helping me be more mindful and present and aware and all the other good things that come along with a consistent yoga practice. I've noticed huge changes in my life since I've started doing yoga more consistently, and almost looking at yoga as a treatment, as my therapy, yoga therapy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in addition to, I have my team now, like that, my go-to team of chiropractors and massage therapists, and I have my people. And so I was on these painkillers for a few years, and I was going to see a rheumatologist, and it never sat right with me. It never felt right.
Right.
They kept trying to get me to start this immunosuppressant therapy, and I kept putting it off and making up excuses. And also it's expensive as hell.
Okay.
Even with coverage, it's like $1,600 a month for the treatments. Yeah.
Oh,
so
there's the stress.
Exactly. Something else to stress about. And then I remember I was just about to start, or I think I'd had maybe one treatment. And then, again, I never liked the idea of it.
Yeah.
And then I found out I was pregnant with my son. So this was about 3 years ago. And I was like, oh, shoot, I guess I can't take this medication anymore. And so I stopped while I was pregnant, obviously. I was nursing for 16 months. And then I got pregnant again right after, pretty much. And I just had my second baby 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So I haven't been on any medication for the last 3 years. And even my doctor tells me, keep up with the yoga, keep seeing your chiropractor, and you hopefully won't need to go on medication ever again.
Yeah, what a good feeling. So this, I'm going to try to get it. Ankylosing spondylitis?
Sure. Yeah.
Close, sounds right. All right.
Yeah, ankylosing spondylitis. Yeah.
Just say it really fast and it'll like all blend together.
Yeah.
Does it run in the family? Is there a correlation? Like, is it luck of the draw or unluck of the draw?
So there is a specific gene marker.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone else in my family has it.
Okay.
But when the doctor that first sort of brought it up to me and said, oh, I think this might be what you have, get tested for this gene marker. And then I did, and I do have it. I think it's one of those things where you can have the gene, but it doesn't necessarily turn into AS. We can call it AS.
Okay. That's much easier.
But in this case, I do have the gene, and I do have AS. So, so yeah. Wow. And I think with autoimmune, they're definitely more prevalent in our generation, and there's all sorts of reasons for that. I mean, we sort of grew up, anyone that grew up as a child in the 80s and 90s, we were pretty much spoon-fed antibiotics every day. Not every day, but, every time you got a sniffle, it's like, here's some penicillin and banana. And, all the processed foods that we grew up eating. And I mean, no fault of our parents. Like, it was just sort of, I guess people didn't realize like how bad sugar, just like they used to smoke in hospitals, and then they're like, oh shit, smoking's bad. And now it's like, oh shit. Yeah. Now it's like, oh shit, sugar is actually like the worst. It's the devil. So I think there's just like all sorts of factors. And like I was saying, the stress, and it's just so common now in our culture I know tons of young women my age that have autoimmune disorders, and it's just crazy. Yeah.
Or I feel like too, everyone I speak to, it's like, I suffer from anxiety, I suffer from stress, and
that's a given as well.
I'm sure it has everything to do with the environment that we're currently in, and then how we were brought up. I mean, that could be like a whole other podcast where we dive into like our past lives and like, this is when I grew up. I had grandparents who smoked in the house for the first little while, and then it was like, oh, we probably shouldn't do that with the kids. But
for sure.
The back pain that you experienced, was it achy? Like, I guess I'm like, what was the turning factor for you going, okay, now I have to like see somebody about this because I'm in so much pain? Or was it a constant like throb?
So what I now know to be flare-ups, as we call them, which is when your symptoms flare up. I never understood when I would first get the pain. It was sort of in my like SI joints. Okay. Like that region. And I thought maybe I had pulled a muscle, and it went away and came back. And I was like, okay, well, pulled muscle wouldn't go away and come back. And then I had gone to my doctor, and he said, oh, it's sciatica. Okay. And what I now know is sciatica is not a diagnosis. It's a symptom of something else going on in the body. And so I remember actually being 20, 21. I think I was on a bus and I was going to work. I probably worked at the mall at the time or a restaurant or something. I was going to work and I was looking at the window and seeing people running and jumping.
Yeah.
Thinking wistfully, oh, I wish I could run and jump. And just thinking, like, how ridiculous is that? I'm only 20 years old and I'm jealous of these people that are able to move their bodies in simple everyday ways.
Yeah.
This is not cool. Like, this should not be happening to me.
Yeah.
And again, like, you don't know what you don't know. And like, I'm sure my lifestyle back then is even though I did always consider myself to be a fairly aware, health conscious person.
Yeah.
I know so much more now and I practice so much better self-care now. And, I really try to find like the most like holistic treatments and just really incorporate like natural wellness into my daily life as much as I can. And that's definitely made a tremendous difference. But back then I was just trying absolutely everything under the sun. And so it's been a long journey. And like I said, I went to so many specialists, I had so many tests, I did so many things, and it was so frustrating, which again was probably upping my stress level and making the symptoms worse. But I'm definitely in a better place in terms of knowing how to manage my symptoms and just how to cope better. And I think one of the biggest things with autoimmune in general is it's a lifestyle. You have to choose to want to live a healthier lifestyle. I mean, sure, you can go down that path where you're relying on, self-medicating, whatever form that may be, or relying on painkillers, and you can end up eventually, having multiple surgeries or what, depending whatever the case may be.
Yep.
Or you can take the path where I'm going to address the root cause instead of just treating the symptoms. I'm going to find out what's, like your body has the ability to heal itself.
Yeah.
And that's what the great thing about chiropractic is it sort of unleashes your body's ability to heal itself. And it's not just treating the symptoms. It's not just popping pills. It's getting right down to the cause. And for some people, they don't want to change their lifestyle.
Yeah.
They don't want to change their diet. They want to eat their sugar and drink their coffee and their alcohol, whatever. And I still do enjoy those things. I just try to enjoy them in moderation.
Yeah. And you're more conscious about those. And when you do, like for me too, like, I'm not a big drinker in the least bit, but if I have a glass of wine, I do not feel guilty at all about it.
No,
I don't do it.
Enjoy it
very often. Yeah. So there's so many ways I want to go with this. Before getting into how yoga came into play, when you were given that diagnosis, was it, this is going to be my life from now, I'm going to have to learn to deal with it? Or were you right away like, no, I'm not, this is not me, I'm not living like this, I'm going to figure it out?
That's a really good question.
And maybe like a day later, because I'm sure the initial diagnosis, you were like, this sucks.
Well, I've actually, in a funny way, it was almost a relief because it had been more than 10 years of struggling to find out what the hell was wrong with me.
Okay,
and wondering if it was all in my head. And then eventually to sort of, even though it was kind of scary, it also was sort of a relief because it's like, okay, now I know what's wrong and I can figure out how to cope with it in the best way rather than just guessing or thinking I'm crazy. So in one way it was kind of a relief. And yes, initially it was scary. Of course I Googled it and never Google anything because Google will always just tell you that you're going to die. So
dying tomorrow. I know my doctor used to say that, stop Googling your symptoms. Cause I'd be like, I have a headache. And then they'd be like, oh my God, Megan, you've got like,
you have a brain tumor.
Like you're going to die in the next few hours.
So, it was scary. And I was, and of course, even my family, like my husband and my parents, like nobody knew what it was. And everyone's like, which can also be scary. But you're right. And then for me, I think it was going to see my rheumatologist and then pushing this treatment on me that I didn't feel comfortable with, that I didn't want to take. And I remember leaving an appointment one time and calling my husband and crying in the office. Like I was out in the waiting room and I was crying on the phone because I was like, this can't be the only answer. Like I don't want to accept this. Like I don't feel comfortable with this. I don't want to live my life this way. Like what else can I do? I think I need to take it into my own hands. And that was sort of the point where I was starting to explore like, okay, what else are my options?
That's amazing, because a lot of people would be like, okay, this is how it's gonna be. Like, give me the pills and
Yeah. Oh,
I'll
the
just,
doctor must know what he's
yeah,
talking about. The doctor must be right. And not to like, not to discredit, anyone or any profession but it's just, you don't always have to accept what anybody tells you,
yeah,
right? Like there's always like second opinions, or go talk to somebody else about it, go see another specialist, go like try different things
yeah,
and see what
yeah.
works for you. You don't just need to blindly accept what one person
Yeah,
tells
absolutely.
you.
I think a good doctor would respect, I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to take pills. Like, what are my other options? And yeah, there's so many different, there's a lot of doctors out there. There's a lot of strength in doctors out there. I've had great doctors, and I've had doctors who are like, here's your pill, next,
Yeah.
see you later. So when did yoga come into play with all of this?
So I think I've been consistently doing yoga for about, I would say maybe 6 or 7 years now.
Wow. Okay.
And I mean, and I would go through phases where maybe I wouldn't do it as much, and then kind of get back on the bandwagon. And of course, since doing yoga teacher training, it's just like, now it's just in my blood now.
Yeah, you're like, I can never not do yoga.
Yeah, there's no going back now.
Yeah.
But I think we talked about this last time. It's funny because I thought that I was relatively new to yoga, but then I found this old health journal that I kept when I was maybe 14 or 15. And in it, I said, do yoga or practice yoga today. And I was like, what? I knew yoga was back then. I don't even remember doing yoga then, but I guess I did. So I guess maybe it's been a part of me for longer than that. But I would say consistently for the last 6 or 7 years, I didn't kind of make the connection right away with yoga and helping me manage my AS, or helping me just be healthier in general.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
I didn't really, it was more of like, it was kind of a hobby, or I don't know if that's the right word, but I didn't make the connection right away.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then once I did, it was such an aha moment. And it also inspired me to want to spread that message, to share that with other people.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, this changed my life.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of people that might have a similar condition, or just, any sort of physical ailment, or recovering from, an accident, or even like addiction, or just, there's so many things. And then people think, oh, well, yoga's not for me, but it could actually help them in many ways.
I think when people say yoga is not for me, like, I know too, when I started doing yoga, like, the misconception was like, okay, like, you're on a beach doing handstand and ta-da, that is yoga. And nobody does that right at the beginning. Like, very few people will even accomplish it in their yoga journey, I guess is the word I'm looking for. But yeah, I think
there's so much more to it than
doing
the Lululemons and the handstands on the beach, right? It's and any true yogi knows that. But I think people that are on the outside of the community looking in sometimes might have that false impression and think, oh, well, I'm not flexible. And I know we talked about this in teacher training. Someone had said, one of our teachers had said, saying, oh, I can't do yoga, I'm not flexible, is the equivalent of saying, I can't eat right now, I'm hungry.
Yeah, exactly.
No, doing yoga helps you to be more flexible. That is the point of it, right? I'm not sure where we were going with this now.
That's okay. So when you started doing yoga, I know you had said you had noticed from previous journaling that maybe you dabbled in it when you were younger, but when you kind of 6 or 7 years ago jumped into it, did you go to a yoga class? Did you do something at home? Like, what made you decide, okay, today's the day I'm starting yoga?
My sister we were both living in Toronto at the time, and she had started doing yoga and was raving about the benefits. And she's one of those people that always sort of like, she knows me really well, and sometimes she knows what I need before I do.
Yeah.
And she recommended yoga to me, and I was like, Yeah, and I'd probably done a little bit of stuff at home. I always go through these phases where I'll just like try new workouts or I'll like get on this routine, but nothing ever really stuck with me. But I will say one thing I always sort of went back to, like, that I would try to incorporate was a little bit of yoga, or maybe I didn't really realize that it was yoga at the time, but I would try to meditate, or I would be stretching, like things like that. And like related to yoga.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd always sort of go back to that. Like that always interested me. So when I went to the first official yoga class at a studio down the street from where I was living, I remember like I walked in and it was almost like, oh, I'm home. Like just the energy. And I've always considered myself to be a very spiritual person as well. I'm a big fan of, love all the woo-woo shit. Like
you're like, that's me. I'm that girl.
Yeah, like let's burn all the sage. Like give me all the crystals. Let's go. And I just remember feeling all that energy, and the class was magic. And I walked out and I felt like actually high. Like I remember calling my sister. I think I left her voicemail. I don't think we spoke, but I remember just being like, holy shit, I feel so high right now. This is amazing. I need another hit. This is amazing. And I continued to go to that studio, and it was more of like a restorative kind of vibe. Like it was very gentle yoga, which I like. I mean, the power yoga is fun sometimes, and I do like to sweat sometimes when I do yoga. But for me, especially if I am feeling in pain, I want the gentle stuff.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
The juicy poses, like the good stuff, which also would explain why I love yoga with Adrien, which is
shout out to Adrien.
Around that same time, I started doing the home practice, and a girl I worked with had said, oh, if you're into yoga, you should check out Yoga with Adrien. And I feel like it was like right around the time, like it was when she was kind of just still new.
Okay.
So it's like I was doing yoga with Adrien like before it was cool. But yeah, no, it was, and I loved her. Like we are like her biggest fans, as we've discussed many times, and we're gonna stalk her one day.
Oh, I know. We talk like she's like, people would be like, okay, so Jenny, Meghan, and Adrien are like 3 best friends that like do things together. And we're like, no, we don't actually know her, but we do. She's
our soulmate. She just doesn't know it. Yeah. So I mostly did a home practice until until I became a mama, and then I brought my son with me to Balance Life, did the mama baby yoga. And then when I was, I guess, about maybe not quite a year later, when I'd always had the back for a while now, I would say for at least the last 3-4 years, I've wanted to do the yoga teacher training. And then but I would kind of say, oh, that's maybe my 10-year plan. Or that's my 5-year plan. Like in the future, I'll do that. And then that little voice just kept getting louder and louder. And it was like, no, like you need to do this.
Can I ask why? Like, what was why did you want to do it? Did you want to dive deeper into like your own practice, or to teach, or a combination of both?
I think a combination of both. And as I mentioned earlier, I think once I truly started to see the benefits of how yoga was changing my life, and when my doctor said to me, you don't need medication anymore if you keep doing yoga, and for a doctor to say that,
yeah, that's amazing.
It was just like, I look at people like my father is one of those people that just has every ailment under the sun, and he takes all these different medications, and it's like, there's no reasoning with him. There's no teaching him like any new tricks. Like he's just an old dog, and he wants to just take his pills and just leave them alone. And that makes me sad, because it's like, no, but if you just, tweaked your lifestyle a little bit, and if you just incorporated some yoga, and it's like, I want to show people like how amazing they can feel without having to rely on external things. It's like, you can make yourself feel great, and yoga is the tool for that. And so that was one of the things that really inspired me. I got this epiphany, or this great inspiration one day. I don't remember where it was or how it came about, but I do remember how it made me feel. And it was just, I was thinking like, I would love to eventually just like be able to be in a place where I can teach other people who are, recovering from injuries or illness, or, even like addiction or other mental health issues, and just really show them the power of yoga and help them be able to heal themselves and live a better, more satisfying life
on their own. Yeah. No, I'm sure that's probably why the universe brought us together. Cause like I'm all about that. Like I resonate so much with that. So when you did yoga, did you notice right away back pain relief?
Yes and no. I think, you know what? I would do certain, postures and poses and I would find like, oh, I would find relief. Like, oh shit, like that pain has been nagging me for a while. And oh, when I do this, like that feels amazing.
Yeah.
I also think the other kind of key thing is like yoga helps you become so much more aware of your body.
Yep. And
certain things, like I would notice there's certain postures that my body just isn't able to do. And I don't get discouraged by that. It's interesting to me because it's like, oh, like places in my spine where there is some fusion, my body might not go a certain way where it might be so easy for somebody else. But for me, it's like my body just physically is unable to do that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting for me because then it just makes me want to dive deeper and be like, okay, why is that happening? What else can I do? What sort of modifications like can I make to address this? And so I find it almost interesting rather than disheartening. It's like, it's just the whole thing about yoga is just so enlightening.
Yeah.
So even if it's not giving me pain relief necessarily, it's showing me something else or teaching me something else about my body. And then maybe I can find another way to address that.
Yeah.
Which I never had that experience before yoga.
Yeah.
So that's definitely eye-opening. Definitely made me more aware of where the pain is in my body.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. My husband Brad, he blew out 2 discs in his back too, and that's one thing that he loves. He does yoga now too all the time, and he loves it. But yeah, he says he's much more aware now if he's moving, like, oh, that's bringing on pain, that's hurting a little bit, or oh yeah, that feels really good if I do this. So it's amazing to see that connection between mindfulness, yoga, and now like knowing your body.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of the time too, I mean, and there are times when I'm in pain and it might not even be AS related. Like I've had 2 pregnancies, stress, we keep a lot of tension in our jaws and our neck and our shoulders. And since doing yoga, I find, yes, I'm more mindful now when, oh, my shoulders are tensed up or my jaw, just certain things. And also in terms of pain relief, because so much pain is related to stress and tension, even just taking 5 or 10 minutes to sit on your mat and breathe, or just lay in child's pose, can sometimes just, even though you're not really doing anything, or you might not appear that you were doing anything, but just that act of relaxing and letting go can do wonders. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I've relieved like all this tension that I didn't even know I was holding, and now my muscles are relaxed and I feel good. I'm not in pain anymore. And one of the key things too, I will say in terms of pain relief, is breathing.
Yeah.
Like I don't think people realize how powerful your breath actually is. And just sitting and breathing, and most of us just breathe so shallow just from in our chest.
Yep.
And we're not taking full deep breaths. And it's like, holy shit, is this what oxygen does? Like, this is amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah.
And another AS sort of related thing is the fusion in my spine also connects to my ribs. So my ribs aren't able to fully expand. So it is harder for me to take a full breath.
Okay. Wow, I didn't know that.
Especially while I was pregnant and, baby was taking up so much space, and, kind of pushing my diaphragm up. So my diaphragm is constricted, and then my ribs are constricted, from my AS. So it was kind of like twofold coming at me, and I was like, I can't breathe. So I'd really have to make time to sit and actually like consciously make an effort to breathe. But the effects, like even when I'm having a headache, or any sort of pain, I try to breathe into the pain.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always, magically completely go away, but
that's fair.
I do actually notice a huge difference.
That's amazing. I didn't know the entirety of AS with you. And when you said the pregnancy, I was like, oh yeah, I'm sure that would probably amplify any breathing constrictions you were having in the back. And looking at you, you would never, like, never would I ever guess that you had AS. I'm just going to try to say that in closing, spondylitis, but AS. Yeah, that's incredible, Jenny. Like, that's amazing. Are your doctors blown away when you come in? Like, I would be taking full credit for you if I was a doctor.
Well, you know what? That's interesting. I actually will never know because the doctor I was seeing before, since my childhood, I no longer see. I started going to see my husband's family doctor.
Okay.
When I found out I was pregnant. He's a family doctor who delivers.
Okay.
And I actually wanted to see, my first plan was I wanted to have a midwife.
Okay.
But they actually didn't take me on because they were unsure how the ankylosing spondylitis would affect my pregnancy, and they didn't want to have to take the risk of having to transfer care like later on.
Okay.
So they just opted not to take me on as a patient.
Okay.
Which was really upsetting. It discouraged me at first, but I ended up going to see like I said, my husband's family doctor, who is a doctor who delivers in Port Perry. It's a small town.
Yeah.
The hospital is small. It has more of like that kind of, that small town feel.
Yeah.
And the doctors and the nurses there are amazing, especially in the New Life Center. And they do have a little bit more of a holistic approach to, pregnancy and birthing and everything. Amazing. Which is more aligned with how I wanted to experience it. So It was kind of, but at the same time, it did have that. It was kind of the best of both worlds. So it worked out really well. And then he just became my doctor afterwards. So he's only known me as a patient for the last 3 years since I was pregnant with my son. So I guess it's hard to say because he hasn't really he didn't know kind of how I was before.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, you had mentioned near the start of the podcast that you see a chiropractor. Yes. How has that played into your, I don't want to say recovery, but into dealing with your AS?
So my chiropractor, so I go to Live Well Family Chiropractic in Ajax. Shout out because they're amazing.
Yeah, you talk about them a lot. It's awesome.
I do. But I strongly believe that all chiropractors are not created equal.
Yes.
I've seen other chiropractors and I did not have the same results. And maybe their methods work better for other people. But for me and my values and, my preferences, she's definitely, Dr. Tara is definitely, and Dr. Tessa, the whole team, they're very, it's a good match.
Yeah. Okay.
So they definitely have that more holistic approach.
Cool.
And it's all about natural health and which I really am obviously very into. So yeah, I started seeing her when I was pregnant. So she specializes in pregnancy and pediatric. But luckily for me, she actually knows people in her personal life that have AS.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it's one of those things where nobody ever knows what I'm talking about. No one's ever heard of it.
Yeah.
And so when I find somebody that actually, especially somebody like a doctor, and because even doctors I've spoken to have they've never heard of it. They've never had a patient who's had it. So when I find people that do know what it is, it's like, oh my God, like you actually know, like you understand.
That would be amazing.
And so she has absolutely changed my life. Like I don't know where I would be today without the care that I received.
Wow.
I honestly truly believe that. And even just so both of like my son, who is almost 2.5, and my daughter, who is about 2.5 months, they both got care in utero, but I've been also taking them since they were babies, like just a few weeks old.
Nice. Okay.
And I can't say enough good things. Like I'm giving them the best start in life. I really believe that.
Yeah.
There's a saying, something along the lines, I might butcher this, but as the twig is bent, so grows the tree.
Okay.
So
yeah. All right.
But basically, like you want to make sure that your kids are, their spines and their nervous system and everything is in optimal alignment from the start, so that these issues and challenges aren't being compounded as they grow. And again, you know what, this could be an entirely different podcast as well. Don't want to get into it too much,
Part 2 of this. Yeah.
Yeah. But basically, you know, right from birth, like birth itself can be a traumatic experience. And
Yeah,
then
for sure.
that just, you know, in their car seats and just as they grow up and they're learning to walk and they're falling and then they're getting, you know, like childhood illnesses and just all these things. And chiropractic can, again, help their bodies be in the best position to be able to heal themselves and for them to grow, right, to grow up healthy. And
Yeah.
I really believe that. I will tell one quick story. I remember my son, this was maybe a year ago, had a really bad fever.
Okay.
And most people are scared by fevers, but a fever is actually a good thing in a way. It's your body's way of fighting off infection.
Yep.
And, you know, especially being a new mom, you kind of panic and it's like, oh, I have to give him Tylenol. I have to bring this fever down. Oh, I have to bring him to the emergency room. Like, what do I do? We just happened to I picked him up from daycare and we were going for our adjustment. I remember being kind of worried and I was like, oh, like maybe after this, I'll take him to the walk-in. He got adjusted and then we drove home. I think I had to stop somewhere and I was still debating whether or not to bring him to the walk-in clinic. And then I went to get him out of his car seat and his fever had broke.
Wow. Amazing.
And I was like, what? And it's like you hear about these things and you hear it's like all anecdotal evidence or whatever. And you're like, yeah, okay, like I believe that. I can buy into that. But then when you actually see it firsthand for yourself,
yeah,
it's like, wow, like that's amazing.
How are the little ones with being adjusted? Like, is it like, I know I've been adjusted a few times and you know, it's quick and everything, but like, does it bother them? Like, do they get scared or freaked out, or are they like, yes, like, let's just do this thing?
Well, Obi, I guess because he's grown up with it, it's literally been a part of his entire life. He just like, it's so funny now watching him grow. It's like he started off, there was like a little pillow that they lay on as babies. And then he's been adjusted on me a few times. And now he's just this big boy and he just walks right up to the table himself. And like, he knows the routine and it's so funny to see.
Wow.
Like, just like, yeah, I'm getting my adjustment. Like,
Oh.
you know, it's all good.
Go journal about it later.
Yeah. You know, sometimes, especially like, you know, if he's like getting a cold or if he's getting, you know, like the beginning of an ear infection and they'll adjust his ears or sinuses. And then, you know, sometimes it's been funny. He's complained, like he's been kind of off that day or kind of like I can tell he's coming down with something. And then they'll adjust his ears and then you'll see, you know, there'll be some drainage and it's like, oh shit, really did. Like there was something going on, you know, and then it's like right after his adjustment, it's like he was pulling at his ear all day and then all of a sudden, you know, he gets adjusted and then it's all this drainage and then he's fine. Like,
that's amazing. I feel like I need to come with you and watch your children get adjusted. Like, that fascinates me. I mean, it makes sense, but to see it happen, to have your children go through it, and then to see like literally, like I would assume minutes or maybe an hour later, you're noticing, there's fluid coming from their ears. Like, wow, cool.
Yeah, it's you know, and it's again, it's treating the root cause, not just treating the symptom, right?
Yeah.
It's like getting to the root cause and then like allowing the body to kind of deal with it itself, right? And in terms of my daughter, as you know, is a colicky baby. And that is usually, again, colic is a symptom of something else that's going on, right?
Okay.
Like there's obviously some subluxation there that needs to be addressed. And so, you know, they've been working on it and she is definitely improving. And I have good friends, my cousin, I've recommended my chiropractor specifically to quite a few people in my life.
Yeah.
And they have all come back with like amazing results and like fully like, wow, I don't know where I'd be without her. Like my baby was crying all the time and, you know, this was happening and recurring ear infections. And now, you know, like, it's just amazing, like to see the results firsthand and then even seeing it for myself. So,
wow, that's amazing. Yeah. Like, I feel like this could be a part 2 where we could talk about chiropractic experiences. Is there anything else that you implement wellness wise into your life or into your or your kids' daily routines?
Yes. So I'm a big probiotics advocate.
Yeah.
I'm all about the probiotics. Like I tell people, if you were to only take, I mean, vitamin D is important. Omega-3 is important, but it's like and again, I'm not a doctor, so like clearly don't take my medical advice as like, anything other than just a, helpful suggestion. But I am like, if you were to take one thing, probiotics, like health starts in the gut. So you want that good bacteria in there.
Do you have a go-to brand that you take of probiotics?
I do, but I find there's so many different strains and you sort of have to find what works best for you. Like I take one for autoimmune. Yeah. So you kind of got to find what's right for you.
Yeah. What got you on to probiotics?
I don't know. I've been taking them for so long now. I don't even.
That's good though. Yeah.
It's just a part of me now. I'm just, so big on the probiotics. Probably my naturopath. I would say, maybe when I haven't gone to see her for a while, but I was seeing naturopath a few years ago. And so that's probably where it all started.
Were you seeing her as general overall health or to specifically help with AS related symptoms?
Yeah, I guess, well, kind of both. But definitely it was helpful for me to learn about how, the foods that we eat and our environment and all of these different stressors that we face every day can have such an impact on like inflammation, which of course can trigger my AS symptoms. So it's all related for sure.
Okay. Oh, wow. So like if you eat a certain food and you have like an AS flare up, you would probably know it was caused by inflammation from something you ate or?
Yeah, it's definitely a contributing factor for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Stress and diet, I think, are like two of the biggest, I would say, like factors that we are able to control, stress and diet. Like
Amen. Movement, environment, and the food that we eat.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You can control it, and you can those three things make a world of difference.
Absolutely, for sure.
Amazing.
And I will say my one other little kind of self-care ritual, which is more for my mental mindset, I guess, but does have, I like to take bubble baths.
Yes, I'm all about bubble baths.
Yes. So I will put Epsom salt, which is, and a little bit of baking soda, which is all good for detoxing and good for your muscles and all that.
Baking soda. Okay, we're adding this to the bath now.
And essential oils, of course. But I like to take it that one step further and make it more of just like a total ritual, just a complete, like, I have like a jazz playlist that I put on. I'll light candles. I'll have a glass of wine sometimes.
Yeah.
Do the face mask, like the whole bit. And it's like, that is my me time.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just feel completely rejuvenated and totally relaxed after, like physically and mentally.
Yeah.
So it does wonders. I mean, obviously being a mom of two, like I don't get that very often anymore. But it even makes it more special when I can indulge in that time and in that way. So I think maybe a bubble bath is not your jam, but just finding like something that makes you feel really good and like apologetically just, taking that time and doing what makes you feel good.
Yeah. And every day. Like, maybe you don't have a 3-hour spa jacuzzi time every day, but no, I'm all about implement something for you every single day. And I probably bubble bath like 4 times a week. So I would every day if I can swing it.
Wait till you have children.
Okay, a little off topic, but I gotta know because I'm going through this like skincare phase. What face mask do you use?
Okay, so I make my own.
Yes, this is awesome. Okay.
So I have, I like to mix it up. So I'll do different things. I have clay powder.
Okay.
And then I will usually sometimes I'll add baking soda, honey, essential oils. I like frankincense, lavender, and sometimes I will add, what else have I used? I've tried different things and I've had different results, but I would say that for sure, like honey and baking soda, those are probably my go-tos, like mixed with the clay powder. And then you can either use water, or sometimes I'll use melted coconut oil.
Oh, you should like make your own line. It sounds like heaven. Like I would buy this. This is amazing.
Yeah, or that could be podcast number 3. Like
Jenny's back with a face mask line now.
Yeah.
That's awesome. No, I'm very about doing self-care, but like trying to make it as organic and as natural as I possibly can. I don't want to like I don't want to be putting more chemicals on my body.
No.
I feel like we ingest them enough where we live.
Exactly. Well, especially if you're trying to have this whole like detox bath experience and then you're like
slapping on chemicals
on your face. Yeah, that's just not good for anybody.
That's amazing. This has been incredible. I feel like, well, I've known you for a year now, but I feel like I've just learned so much more about you. We need to get together and have another like non-podcast chat. Is there anything else that you want to throw out there with maybe someone who's new to this or starting out or AS related or self-care related?
I think it's just, everybody has to start somewhere.
Yep.
And you just have to dive in, just do it. Find whatever it is that does make you feel good or that resonates with you. In terms of yoga, like you just got to try it, man. Like you just got to get on your mat and just move your body. And I promise you, like it will feel good. You will like it. I have yet to meet somebody that says that they don't like yoga. That's actually given it an honest try, right?
Yeah.
And like we were saying, you don't have to don't worry about the inversions and just
and if
everybody's got to start.
Yeah. And I'm also too like if you've tried power yoga and maybe it wasn't your jam right at start, try gentle, try yin, try restorative, like give it a couple of tries.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, if you've tried yoga and you've done it all and you're not a fan, try restorative yoga because I guarantee you will like that. So it's basically just like
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Where can everybody go to find you, connect with you, be part of your tribe?
So you can find me on Instagram at Jenny Liz Purdy, and stay tuned for some treats coming your way.
I'll link all of this in the show notes for everybody. So if you're driving or you're not writing this down, they can connect right with you through the show notes. Yeah, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for doing this podcast with me and B, doing it again with me.
Yeah, of course. Anytime.
Yeah. Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you.
I'd like to once again thank Jenny for being part of this podcast. It was an amazing, inspiring talk to have with her. If you want to connect with Jenny, all of her information will be linked in the show notes. Another announcement regarding my 30-day transformation journey. If you're looking to start your own journey, looking to begin and maintain it, check this series out. It is meant for beginners. It's meant to get you started. It's meant to get you back on track if you've taken a little bit of a break from it. You can find all of that information on my website. That too will be linked in the show notes. And finally, another announcement about my Costa Rica yoga retreat, which will be happening in Nazara, Costa Rica this year, November 2nd to 9th. I will be co-hosting that with Amanda Kingsmith from Mastering the Business of Yoga. If you haven't checked out her podcast, go check it out. It's super juicy. It has tons of information. Yeah, this is going to be an amazing retreat. If you would like some more information on that, that's on my Instagram page, it's on my Facebook page, and it will also be on the website. If there's anything on there that hasn't been answered, if you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to me, and I am more than happy to communicate with you about that. All right, everyone, have a great rest of your week, and I will see you next week for another new episode.